You've tried to explain it, but the words always feel incomplete. No matter how much you do, how many people you meet, how many distractions you chase, that quiet emptiness always comes back. You laugh, but the laughter fades. You succeed, but the joy dissolves. At night, when the noise is gone, something inside whispers, "This isn't it." That emptiness is not weakness, it's not failure. It's the one thing you can't outrun, and maybe, just maybe, that's the point. You try to fill it with scrolling, with goals, with relationships that never seem to last. You keep moving, afraid of the silence, afraid of what it might reveal. But silence is honest. It strips away the lies we tell ourselves. That happiness comes with more. That meaning waits in the next milestone. That someone else will complete us. And yet, the emptiness remains. You were told, study, work, achieve, consume. You followed the script, and still, something feels missing. Because emptiness cannot be filled with noise. It is not a hole that needs to be filled. It is a mirror showing you what is false. That's why the more you run, the louder it becomes. You don't suffer from emptiness. You suffer from pretending it's a mistake. What if emptiness is not a curse, but an invitation? A space that asks you to stop, to look, to see. You feel empty because much of life is filled with things that don't matter. Gossip, status, image, the constant performance of being somebody. When those illusions lose their weight, emptiness appears, not as punishment, but as truth. Alan Watts once said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth." The emptiness you feel is the failure of that attempt. Nietzsche called it the death of God, the collapse of borrowed meaning. And in that collapse, you stand face to face with nothingness. It feels terrifying, but it's also the most honest moment of life. The more you try to avoid it, the stronger it becomes. The more you chase happiness, the more hollow it feels. Because the opposite of emptiness is not fullness, it is clarity. Emptiness doesn't ask you to add more. It asks you to let go, to see that the things you thought mattered never did. Look at the night sky. Most of it is empty space, yet without that silence, the stars would mean nothing. Your emptiness is the same. It is the space where truth begins to echo. Without it, you would drown in noise. With it, you can finally hear yourself. The modern world teaches you to run from silence, to fill every pause with sound, to cover every doubt with another purchase. But silence is not the enemy. Emptiness is not the disease. It is the symptom of a life built on illusions. And illusions always break. So, why do you feel empty? Because you are finally seeing through the game. And what are you missing? Nothing outside of you. What you are missing is your own presence. To sit without running, to breathe without searching, to see without needing the world to agree. That is not emptiness, that is freedom. Most people treat silence like a problem. They turn on music, they pick up their phones, they escape. But silence is a teacher. It shows you that beneath the noise, you are still here. And that presence, that stillness, is not empty. It is the most real thing you will ever know. You think you feel empty because you are alone, but look closer. How many people surround themselves with crowds and still feel hollow? Connection without truth is another kind of loneliness. True friendship is not about filling space. It is about standing together, even in silence. You've spent years performing, smiling when you didn't want to, agreeing when you didn't believe, hiding your doubts because they might make others uncomfortable. That mask is heavy, and when it slips, when the performance fails, you call it emptiness. But maybe it's just you. Finally stepping out of the costume, existentialists spoke of the absurd, the gap between our need for meaning and a universe that gives none. The emptiness you feel is not the end. It is the beginning, the place where you stop waiting for permission and start creating your own meaning. Think of a glass of muddy water. When you keep stirring it, it stays cloudy. But when you let it sit, it clears. Emptiness is the same. When you stop running, when you stop stirring, clarity rises on its own. They told you to never be bored. They gave you endless screens, endless noise, endless choice. But boredom is not the enemy. It is the doorway to awareness. And the reason you feel so restless is because you've forgotten how to sit still. You think you want happiness, but what you truly want is peace. A peace that doesn't depend on the next achievement. A peace that doesn't collapse when someone leaves. That peace begins where the noise ends, and the noise ends in emptiness. Most people will never face it. They will spend their whole lives running, chasing, pretending. But if you are here, listening now, it means you are ready to stop running, ready to look. And in that look, you will see something astonishing. The emptiness was never against you. It was waiting for you. One day the emptiness stops feeling heavy. It becomes familiar, a quiet friend that no longer demands to be feared. You realize it was never empty at all. It was space, space for clarity, space for peace, space for you. You don't need the world to wake up for you to feel whole. You don't need agreement to feel clear. You don't need validation to know who you are. You walk alone, yes, but not as an outsider, as someone at peace with the cost of truth. So why do you feel empty? Because emptiness is not your enemy. It is your mirror. It is your teacher. And what are you missing? Nothing. Because in that silence, in that stillness, you were never empty. You were always complete.